Hello, and welcome to episode 506 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. As always, joined by Evan Silva as we embark on fantasy semi-final week. Evan, how's it going?
It's going well. Coming off a super busy week. I felt like it was a largely injury-free week relative to the other weeks.
Yeah, JT and Lockett were really the only big ones. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. We just did NFC. On today's show, we're going to go through each team in the AFC, what we saw in week 15, what it means going forward. Before we get into it here, I want to remind everyone that playoff-only best ball is in format that can have a massive edge if you understand the strategy on it. The tournament on Underdog is huge. There are going to be so many dead teams in there that literally can't win for a number of reasons, starting with maybe you don't have enough teams that can play each other, enough players that can play each other in the Super Bowl to field a winning team in that round where all the money is. There's also strategy in getting out of round one when there's buys, but still have a really good team. We do have rankings up. We do have content up. Rankings are up and updated. Hersey and Leone did a podcast on Establish the Edge, which I hope you guys are subscribed to. And then there's also a strategy article up on the site as well. Check that out. If you have not played on Underdog Fantasy ever, promo code ETR will get you up to $100. Matching deposit bonus. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right, Evan, let's start with the Baltimore Ravens here. I think we had a good projection on J.K. Dobbins. He's just breaking everything because he's averaging 8.8 yards per carry since coming back from this latest knee injury. I mean, and he has been like, I guess he looks good, but he's kind of like dragging that leg still a little. I don't know, man. But you can't deny results. 8.8 yards per carry. What do you think's going on with Dobbins? Anything else on the Ravens?
Yeah, and did you see there's like these balls sticking out of his knee? Like, he's like a medical marvel, and he's been telling us that he was since the preseason. All right, anybody that doubted him, he was going to find you.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, he's banging long runs. I mean, and their running game, it's been up and down. It's been a roller coaster all season, but it absolutely smashed here. Of course, against the Browns, they struggled against the run all season. But I mean, even Gus Edwards came in. He had his share of big runs. Kenyon Drake was a healthy scratch for this game. They did still use a little bit of Justice Hill, but I think we're down to a two-man backfield of Dobbins and Edwards. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I thought they were going to play all four. We actually had an under on J.K. Dobbins rush yards and props, and once Kenyon Drake was ruled out, I was like, oh God, we're in big trouble now, and we were. So yeah, I mean, if Dobbins is going to play like this, I agree. I think it's two. The other thing we should talk about is the quarterback situation. Right. This team and Tyler Huntley, I mean, I thought he would play better. I thought he'd play better in real life and in fantasy. He has been awful. 3 points against the Cleveland Browns. I was reading, I think they sound somewhat optimistic that Lamar is going to be back. Obviously, we'll be watching that, but they need Lamar back really, really badly.
Yeah. Tyler Huntley, again, he really has only had that one big game that Will Sue, the millionaire maker, last year. Other than that, he's been average to really bad.
Yeah. Buffalo. So the story of this game coming in was the weather. Oh, the weather. Oh, how are they going to? Turns out weather was fine. 61 points, 800 plus yards in this game between the Bills and the Dolphins. And, you know, I know I give the weather bros a hard time. I'm really just messing around, and the weather will look like it will have an impact in this week upcoming. We'll talk about that more on Thursday night. And by the way, for subscribers, Establish a Million and Establish the Show will both be on Thursday night this week ahead of the Saturday slate. But anyways, predicting these Dawson Knox games, man. We had Dawson Knox and Gerald Everett in the 10K season-long league that we've been doing, and it was the final. You know, we were playing to get into the final round, and we went Gerald Everett over Knox, and we would have gotten in if we went the other way. It's just so painful trying to predict these Dawson Knox breakout games. But anyways, what you see out of the Bills game against the Dolphins?
Yeah, and I think that the rare Dawson Knox breakout games are generally dictated by what the defense is doing, and the defense did a really good job here on Stephon Diggs. And Gabe Davis just really, he's a real average number 2 receiver, probably below average, who gets elevated at times by the offensive environment and Josh Allen's ability to elevate players around him. You know, Isaiah McKenzie is like a really they've got Stephon Diggs and then a lot of just guys, I think. I think that I would say that fairly confidently. Their offensive line has been just okay. Josh Allen has been, the elevator. There's a lot of legitimate MVP candidates this year. Josh Allen ain't going to win it, I guess. But, I mean, he's just as good a candidate really as anybody else.
I don't think
Josh Allen hasn't had as consistent of a year as Patrick Mahomes.
Agreed, for sure. Mahomes has undoubtedly been better. I just think that if Mahomes falters down the stretch, what I think is unlikely, if he falters down the stretch, Josh Allen plays Joe Burrow in week 17, I believe. If Josh Allen wins that game and the Bills end up with the number 1 seed, I still think Josh Allen is live there to win it. But to me, Patrick Mahomes is undoubtedly the best player in the league and the most valuable player. Bengals, speaking of Joe Burrow, Cincinnati started off slow, but then they came back and won a really good game down there in Tampa. Certainly benefited from some turnover variance that they got on their side in that game. Jamar Chase didn't have a huge game, but his volume continues to be, massive, because T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd both played in this game, and still 13 targets for Jamar Chase. They're running screens to him, even with Carlton Davis all over Jamar Chase. They were still targeting Jamar Chase relentlessly here. What you see out of the Bengals' good win down in Tampa?
Yeah, Carlton Davis played his ass off.
Yeah,
he was really, really good, especially early in the game. Took a lot away from Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase still gets there, and we were on the fence, really, Jamar Chase versus Devontae Adams last week. And that just goes to show these coin flip decisions, they can end up with large, widespread outcomes.
For sure.
And that's what happened here, because Devontae Adams did not have a good game and Jamar Chase did. And Tyler Boyd got it done playing through the finger dislocation. What are your thoughts right now on the running game?
Yeah.
It was never a positive matchup for them in the running game.
So the usage was a little bit better for Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon outsnapped Samaje Perine 42-25, 17-8 in favor of Mixon in opportunities. I think that's the way it's just going to be. I think Perine can play, and Mixon has not been great this year. And so, that kind of 17-8 advantage for Mixon in terms of opportunities, I think that's going to be pretty standard going forward. Let's go to Cleveland. Nick Chubb popped up with some injury today. I actually didn't get a chance to look into it. It was right before we got on the show here, but he did out carry Kareem Hunt 21-4 in this game, which surprised me a little bit. What do you see out of the Browns, who won an ugly game over Tyler Huntley and the Ravens?
Oh, you want to look up the details on the Nick Chubb thing if you can?
Yeah.
Because I didn't see that before we got on. With Kareem Hunt, he's got single digit touches. I don't know. I've been talking about it a lot in matchups. He's got single digit touches in 5 of his last 6 or something like that.
Yep.
He's just not been a big part of the offense. He plays a decent amount of snaps, but they don't go out of their way to get him the football. And Deshaun Watson has never been a running back friendly check down sort of quarterback. I didn't think that he was particularly impressive in this game. He hit Amari Cooper on a couple of crossing routes wide open in the middle of the field. And then there wasn't a whole lot else besides that. We talked about our flag plans for the Saturday games. I had Donovan Peoples-Jones, was lucky that he got into the paint because he only had 31 yards. But yeah, it was not a great offensive performance from Cleveland.
Yeah, and I actually thought Amari looked healthy. I know there was some talk out there that Amari's hip was going to be an issue. He's going to be limited, and that would be better for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Turned out Amari was actually healthy for this game. I will say this game upcoming is one of the worst in terms of weather forecasts. We'll keep an eye on that. The total for this game is 31 or something completely ridiculous. Nick Chubb missed practice on Tuesday with a foot issue. It's early, man. I wouldn't be worried about it, but I think if Kareem Hunt is on your waiver wire, I would just add him and see what happens for sure.
Yeah.
Denver, such an ugly game against Arizona, but you see what can happen through volume. Latavius Murray gets 24 carries and a target here, even though Marlon Mack played a decent amount. When you're getting that much and you're in a good spot and you can play a little bit like Latavius can, it's going to be fine in fantasy, and it was more than fine. Latavius had a really good game here. What you see out of the Broncos, who got a win, and people around here in Denver are saying, okay, let's get rid of Russ. Brett Rippon's better than Russ.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah.
He took 7 sacks on 33 dropbacks. His numbers look, just on paper, his yards per attempt, completion rate, the other stuff They won the game. They scored 24 points. All that looks better than Russell Wilson. I presume that Russell Wilson's going to get his job back because of all that they gave up to acquire him. But so I guess that'll happen this week. Jerry Jeudy still got there 7 for 76 at least in full PPR. He got you almost 15 points with Brett Rippon in there. Yeah.
The Dolchich stuff, usage is incredible. Usage was incredible again. Got 2 targets, and so that's just been happening a lot to Greg Dolchich, which was obviously a concern. Houston played well again. Now, I don't think they played as well as they did against Dallas, but they still forced Kansas City to overtime. Dameon Pierce, by the way, news is official now. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. So I think all that Rookie of the Year stuff on Dameon Pierce is dead. Dare started the game and Rex played a little, but Royce Freeman, which actually I was stunned by. We didn't have this projected at all. Royce Freeman came in and played a ton, but is what it is on the Texans at this point. What you see out of them. I mean, credit to them, man. They've played 2 really good teams the last 2 weeks and played really well in both.
Yeah, I mean, they play hard. I thought that was even the case last year under David Culley, and they've continued to play hard this season. They haven't given up. The players haven't given up. Did you play Jeff Driscoll at tight end in your season-long league?
I did in one, and I was lucky to survive. So dumb, and I was lucky to survive. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I know people were big on that. That didn't go too well.
No. Let's go to Indy. Officially, JT is done for the year. Played just 2 snaps in this game, unfortunately. Rolled his ankle, especially, just goes to show you, man, predicting injuries is so hard. JT had never missed a practice. Going back to high school. This year, he's banged up for much of the year, ends up playing in just 11 out of 17 games. Just unlucky. It's not because he's injury prone. It's just he plays running back in the NFL, and he got unlucky this year, is what it is. Now, going forward, people want to know about the Deion Jackson versus Zach Moss split. In this game, it was mostly Zach Moss. Zach Moss outsnapped Deion Jackson 53-25. Zach Moss only ran 14 routes, though, on those 53 snaps. Deion Jackson ran 9. Zach Moss had 25 opportunities, Deion Jackson 14. Remember, though, this was a game they were up 33-0. In games where they're behind, and they play the Chargers this week, if they get behind, I think you might see more Deion Jackson. So it's a tough spot to say who is the preferred ad. Based on last week's usage, I feel like it almost has to be Zach Moss, but I'd be adding both of them if I could, I think, and then trying to figure it out from there. What are your thoughts on the running back spot going forward here?
Yeah, to me, it seemed like they came out after Jonathan Taylor got hurt and they were going to try to find the hot hand because I think through about 14 combined touches, I think they were at 7 apiece or something like that. And then Zach Moss kind of separated himself, although I don't think Zach Moss is particularly good.
Right.
So, yeah, it could just as easily be Deion Jackson, both from a game script standpoint and say they come out using the hot hand again or whatever, trying to establish the hot hand, and they just roll with Deion Jackson. Yeah, I think that they're about even. I would lean toward Zach Moss, but I think it's like 54-46.
I mean, if they think power running is the way to beat the Chargers, which a lot of teams think power running is the way to beat the Chargers, that would be Zach Moss. Absolutely. Team is not good. Last week is could actually break them. And so if they get behind against the Chargers here, I think Deion will play more. So yeah, it's an interesting waiver spot for sure. Michael Pittman, I thought, played a really good game here, but Matt Ryan just can't get the ball down the field. It's a crime that Michael Pittman's at 9.5 yards per carry. And we looked at Michael Pittman under, I think it was under 69.5 receiving yards. And I was like, God, he's going to get 10, 11 targets here, which he did against the freaking Vikings. And he did. And he still stayed under the total because everything's so short. I mean, it's so crazy what they've done, Michael Pittman, but he still has plenty of value, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, I need to bend the knee. Alec Pierce was one of my 3 flag plants. I had DPJ, Alec Pierce, and Jalen Waddle. Alec Pierce, 4 targets, 0 catches.
Yeah.
I like the matchup. I liked his usage up until that point, but he's their downfield receiver and their quarterback can't throw downfield.
Undoubtedly. Yep. Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence continues to absolutely ball out. I did not play Trevor Lawrence in tournaments this week because I was afraid of Dallas's defense for the most part. Trevor Lawrence went for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against Dallas. Dude is absolutely on fire. He's going to be tested massively again, though, this week. Short week, outside, playing what I think is probably the best pass defense in the NFL in the New York Jets. Can Trevor Lawrence keep this up? And by the way, I believe Cam Robinson is now out for the year, which cannot be good. So, yeah, what do you think about this spot now for Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, Cam Robinson, the Jaguars left tackle, done for the season. That's scary, especially on a short week, especially facing a pretty loaded Jets defensive line. That's going to be a massive game, Jets-Jaguars. The Jaguars still have a chance to win the AFC South.
Oh, yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is like one of the 5 hottest quarterbacks in the NFL. Right now, he's played really, really, really well in 5 out of their past 6 games. He's elevating teammates. I think it was Kevin Kelly who writes for, I think, the 33rd football team or whatever. Kevin Kelly, the Arkansas high school football coach who never punts.
Right.
But he does like some NFL analysis. He was saying that Doug Peterson is the hottest play caller in the NFL before this game. And I mean, he was really, really hot in this game because they found the mole in the Cowboys defense, and that was Kelvin Joseph, and they just picked on him all game long.
Yeah.
Zay Jones had a massive game. He continues to force my continual capitulation. And Christian Kirk is still getting there pretty consistently. Everything on the back of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, what an absolute stud. And he has been good, like, within the structure of the offense. And I feel like he's starting to gain confidence in making plays outside of the structure of the offense when things break down, which may need to happen more now that their left tackle is done for the season.
Yeah, I mean, Zay continues to play really, really, really well. The one that I wanted to point out again, Travis Etienne continues to have some of the best usage in the league from a rushing perspective. He's just like not involved in the pass game. And credit to Trevor Lawrence, who pushes the ball downfield. They use Evan Ingram so much in that kind of wide receiver-ish role. And so there's just not a lot there for Etienne in the pass game. KC, speaking of league winners, like what you needed actually for now is Zay Jones and Jerick McKinnon, which is kind of crazy. But man, Jerick McKinnon in a game against Houston, he outsnaps Isaiah Pacheco 48-27. McKinnon runs 31 routes in this game compared to just 10 for Pacheco. McKinnon catches 8 balls. I mean, I don't know how sustainable this is, but dude is absolutely balling. What do you think about McKinnon Pacheco stuff going forward, especially since they play Seattle this week, which at least in theory is another good rushing matchup for the Chiefs? What do you think about that? Anything else with KC?
Yeah, so Pacheco fumbled in this game, and that really – and he's fumbled too much this year. He's up to 4 fumbles. You know, that could end up costing him playing time. They did go back to him, and he ran really well again. Like, the dude is doing really well, like from an efficiency standpoint, but he's giving the ball to the team, to the other team too much. And Jerick McKinnon has had an awesome year, and they can trust him in all situations. He's running the ball with authority, and he's obviously already their passing down back. And you know they love to throw the football. So, yeah, I mean, McKinnon is like an every week starter right now.
Yeah. By the way, Kadarius Toney did return for this game. He ran just 3 routes, though, so they clearly didn't think that he was ready for a real role. Speaking of guys coming back as we move to Las Vegas, Darren Waller was back, finally. People doubted it would ever happen. Darren Waller was back. He was eased in 48% of the snaps, but he did run around on 66% of the dropbacks. 19 of his snaps were slot. 7 of them were wide. 7 of them inline, caught a touchdown in this game. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who've been waiting to get Darren Waller into the lineup. I've had Darren Waller in my IR spot in a couple season-long leagues forever. I'm excited to get him back in there. Evan, what do you see of Waller's return? Anything else with the Raiders, who won most, I mean, just ridiculous fashion on the lateral play?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Hunter Renfrow was back too. He did not have a big game, but Waller did score early. And, you know, and Mac Hollins had a nice game too, and Devontae Adams did not. I saw a statistic that Devontae Adams has had, 4, I think it's from Josh Dubow, who covers the Raiders for the Associated Press. Devontae Adams has had 4 games under 40 yards this season. In 5 seasons with the Packers, he had 1 game below 40 yards.
Yeah.
So when there's competition
right
for him in the passing game, it can be detrimental, certainly to his floor.
That's what I was going to say, is that in this game with Waller and Renfrow back, the reason that we had Chase as a better play was because Waller and Renfrow were back. I mean, just more competition, period. And it kind of played out that way. 23% target share for Devontae Adams is good. It's not elite. Like, he's normally up around 30%. So, yeah. Chargers. Justin Herbert play, man, it was just bad. I mean, I talked about it some on the solo pod. It's just bad. I played way too much Justin Herbert, got way too locked onto Justin Herbert. The opportunity he got was as expected. They ran 69 plays. I mean, they run so many plays. They ran 69 plays. He dropped back 45 times against this broken Tennessee pass defense. Justin Herbert had everyone healthy, and he still failed. It was still the dink and dunk. He is now 35th among 38 NFL quarterbacks in average depth of target. TDs have been down too. He's down to 22nd in touchdown rate, which is a pretty noisy stat, but just explains some of what's going on. So, yeah, that was just on me. I just got way too locked on to Justin Herbert. What do you see out of the Chargers? They got to win, man, but it was not a good performance.
Yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about it. It's just their 2 touchdowns were scored on the ground, and I don't know, he threw for 313 and averaged 7.5 yards per pass attempt. He did not light up the Titans, obviously, and maybe that's where we went wrong with Justin Herbert, was just assuming that he would light up the Titans. Like, the Titans continually overcome all these personnel losses. We knew that. Yeah. And we were probably overconfident in Justin Herbert, but I don't think that the game he played, it wasn't good in fantasy. It wasn't the worst.
It's a great point, because Tennessee always overperforms, it seems like, and Chargers underperform a ton, and so, yeah.
Exactly. That was kind of one of the reasons that I liked the Titans defense at 2,200, was because of that. Yeah. It's because the Chargers just had this tendency to underperform, especially when they're coming off like a big win, and then the Titans always overperform.
Let's go to Dolphins. So Jeff Wilson got scratched from this game, barely practiced all week, although he did get in, I think they listed him questionable, so maybe he did have a chance. I don't know there, but I thought Raheem Mostert looked really, really fresh in this game against the Bills, ran the ball really, really well. What do you see out of the Dolphins in that game up in Buffalo on Saturday?
Yeah, the Dolphins running game I thought was maybe the most impressive. Well, Josh Allen is always the most impressive player when pretty much in any game in which he participates. But Raheem Mostert was awesome. Yeah, and it wasn't just the big 67-yarder. It was like chunk runs. He taps out so much, though. I mean, he's just not built to be a true feature back, but he was used as that here. But I feel like every time he seems to take like a lot of big hits. But man, I mean, he was awesome in this game.
They're home games, so they get to come home and play in the good weather. Home against the Packers next, another really good spot for Mostert. If Jeff Wilson can't go in this game, I mean, Mostert's going to project really well against Packers at home.
And in what was billed to be a very concerning matchup for Tua Tagovailoa, I just totally butchered that. But because of the weather concerns, because of the Bills' defensive concerns, like, I thought he played pretty darn well in this game. The offensive line versus the Bills' defensive line, there were a lot of concerns for Tua here. He didn't get a whole lot. Like, Tyreek dropped a couple, Trent Sherfield dropped one. They continued to get 0 from Mike Gesicki. But I thought that he played like above expectation here in this game. And their offense is not – they had 2 bad games in a row. And it was fair to wonder if the Dolphins offense had sort of been caught on to. I don't think that it has been.
Let's go to New England. I mean, the way they lost is just absolutely absurd. We don't need to go into that too much. I'm sure everyone saw it by now. The big surprise for me that Ramondre Stevenson was not only healthy enough to play on that ankle, but to get 19 carries and 3 targets and be really efficient. Also, Ramondre, one of the most valuable players in fantasy. I mean, we obviously got a lot wrong this year. We're going to go over a lot of it. One of the things we got right for sure has been Ramondre Stevenson just absolute beasting. And yeah, he's run hot with Damian Harris getting hurt and the James White stuff, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, he's played great. What do you see out of New England against the Raiders?
Yeah, he's so good. Their passing game is just like broken.
Yeah.
And, some of it is a talent issue. some of it's got to be schematic and coaching, because Mac Jones is like getting more pissed every single week. You know, he's getting mad at his teammates. He's obviously mad at the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been like talking publicly, like on podcasts about it. I mean, their passing game is in really, really bad shape. And I don't know really any reason to expect optimism at this point.
I mean, look who it's like the Giants thing. Like, do you really expect Mac to succeed with Aguilar and Jacoby Myers and like Tyquan Thornton? I mean, they don't even have Devontae Parker out there. I mean, you know, it's just, let's go to the Jets. So Zach Wilson was back, and Zach Wilson's stats look pretty good, especially for a fantasy perspective. I will note that 2 of the plays that he had were like essential Hail Marys. They gave him a chance. They got the ball back with like 25 seconds left in the first half. And maybe they could have kneeled, but they were like, went empty, and Zach just chucked it down the field and they get a catch. He had another crazy Hail Mary catch late in the game to give them a chance at a field goal. But you got to give him credit. 317 pass yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think most importantly, they were aggressive letting him throw the football, especially since no one runs on the Lions. They almost had no choice. Now they get a short week here against Jacksonville. Zach Wilson is going to start again. What do you think of Zach in this game? Anything else on the Jets?
I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's getting better. I know that the numbers look pretty good on paper, and you know that can be a function of the opposing pass defense. We knew that the Lions' run defense was playing really well. We still had questions about their pass defense, and like dudes for the Jets just made like big plays. I mean, Jeff Smith came out of nowhere to make a big play. You know, Garrett Wilson is like legit awesome.
Oh yeah,
you know he's like I think he's a matchup proof fantasy play at this point, like a wide receiver 2, a quarterback proof wide receiver 2. And so I don't know. It'll be real again. Jets Jaguars on Thursday night. We're going to learn a lot about really both these teams. It's a massive game.
Yeah, Zonovan is fine. He was on the injury report with an ankle, but they didn't list him on the final report for that Thursday game. Or they said he's going to play because we don't have the final report yet. We'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, Zonovan just had no chance. I mean, the Lions have just been lights out against running backs here. Let's go to Pittsburgh. So Trubisky went down to Carolina, which I thought was actually a reasonably tough spot, or at least an underrated tough spot. And Mitch played well enough, at least, to hold off Mason Rudolph. You also got a reasonable Najee Harris game, who, has not been great, was a horrific first-round pick from a real-life perspective, but at least he's getting enough opportunity now to get there in fantasy for some middling Zeke-like games. What you see out of the Steelers, who got a good win down in Carolina?
Yeah, their running game had it was doing well for a while, and then it started to sputter, and they got it back going here. I mean, they didn't break anything long. I guess Steven Sims had a long one, but I mean, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, neither of them had a run longer than 10 yards, and they still wound up combining for 125 on the ground and a couple of TDs. So that I think that was good for them, I guess. Deontay Johnson continues to do nothing with his targets. He did finish with 98 yards here, but that was on 10 catches. It's just his role doesn't change, changing the quarterbacks. And Kenny Pickett has already been cleared. He's going to be starting in week 16.
Kenny Pickett will be back. And by the way, the Freiermuth thing, seems to me he's clearly hurt. He only ran 16 routes in this game. He didn't earn a single target. Shout out Penn State, but it's tough for me to click him now, given that I think he's playing hurt.
Yeah.
Let's go to last team we're going to do here is the Tennessee Titans. The knock on Derrick Henry was always, but when they get behind us and play, they don't throw him the football. Derrick Henry had another game with a 10% plus target share. This time, 15% of the targets went to Derrick Henry. He also handled 21 of 22 running back carries. At this point, the role for the big dog is elite, and he gets the Texans here next. I mean, if you're scrolling through best ball teams or whatever, and you have Derrick Henry, you got to be super excited about it. Tannehill's stuff, though, is, I think, probably not good at all for anyone. Sounds like Tannehill's going to miss. When Malik Willis started, the last time we saw Malik Willis, I mean, it was league worst quarterback play, really stone cold bottom of the barrel stuff from Malik Willis. So any hope for him? How do you think he affects Henry? Anything else on the Titans?
I think they just don't trust him to throw the football whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they're just going to continue to make the offense revolve around Derrick Henry, maybe even to a greater extent. And I mean, God, you could see in this game, like, he just accounts for so much of their offense. Derrick Henry does, and that'll continue to be. I would be really skeptical of Chig Okonkwo if Malik Willis does have to start, and any other, say Treylon Burks comes back. I mean, I wouldn't have confidence in any of them.
Yeah, it stinks for Chig because he's really looked good. I mean, Chig has only run 142 routes this year, which is not very much, but on that, he's earned 36 targets. Chig leads all tight ends, not just rookies or whatever. Chig leads all tight ends in yards per route run at 2.63. That's going to come down, though, with Willis, and that's why yards per route run is kind of a noisy stat because quarterback play comes into account, target competition, et cetera, et cetera. All right. That's going to do it for this AFC team by team podcast. Huge good luck to anyone still alive in best ball, anyone still alive in their season-long leagues. Again, reminder on the schedule for this week. Projections as usual. Establish the Million and Establish the Show will both be live Thursday night, available for replay after Saturday morning. We're going to have one show, not Wake and Rake and Last Minute Live Stream, but a combined one show in which all of us will be mixing in and out between the two shows from starting at 11 a.m. Eastern on Saturday ahead of that Christmas Eve main slate. Happy holidays to everyone. Appreciate everyone for being here all year. For Evan, for producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.